HBA.com as we present the North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum. As today we are joined on this North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum with YourLiveEvent.com, powered by Halstead Telephone Company, R&J Broadcasting Incorporated, as I'll be your moderator for the afternoon as owner-president of R&J Broadcasting Incorporated, joined today by Whitney Pittman, producer and technical director, and Jacob Berkemeyer as director for this District 20 Legislative Forum this afternoon. We are joined by Senator Randy Lem, Representative Mike Belts, and Representative Jared Haggart, your District 20 delegation. Senator Randy Lem was appointed to the Senate in March of 2019 and was elected in November 2020. Lem and his wife Julie operate a diversified farm and ranch in southern Trail County. During the 2019 session, Senator Lem served on the Agriculture and Judiciary Committee. During the interim, he served on the Ag and Transportation Committees as well as the Administrative Rules Committee. Senator Lem currently serves on the Agriculture and Education Committees. Representative Mike Belts. Mike is a farmer from northeast of Hillsboro and is currently in the process of retiring from farming. He has served on numerous agriculture-related boards, such as the Shelley Farmers Co-op Board, the Dry Bean Council, Soybean Council, North Dakota Agriculture Coalition, and the State Board of Ag Research and Education. He has also served as the Caledonia Township Assessor and Supervisor. It's no surprise that he requested and currently serves on the House Agriculture Committee. Mike also requested and was selected to serve on the Human Services Committee. Mike believes that the decisions made by the Human Resources Committee have a tremendous impact on people's lives. Mike has an interest and desire for public service in this arena. He finds the committee work on human resources intense, challenging, and rewarding. Representative Jared Haggart, as Jared lives in the Emerado, North Dakota area with his wife Brandy, raising wheat, dry beans, soybeans, and corn on their farm. Brandy also works as a clinical pharmacist in the All True Health system. Along with the farm, they also run a seed conditioning and sales facility east of Northwood. Previous experiences have been as a township supervisor, a representative for North Dakota soybean producers at both the state and national levels. Representative Haggart is proud to represent District 20 in the Legislative Assembly and serve on the Industry, Business, and Labor and Transportation Committees. Welcome again to our District 20 delegation, Senator Randy Lem, Representative Mike Belts, and Representative Jared Haggart. With the introductions, I'd like to move forward and give an opportunity for each of our District 20 delegation members to get us started here this afternoon. And if we could begin with Senator Randy Lem and just have you maybe give us an update as to what is currently going on in the session as you speak to us today via Zoom from Bismarck, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We are going to be meeting at 8:30 tomorrow morning to start going over bills again. This is the last week before crossover. The Senate's got roughly like 25 bills, I think, that we have to complete before the end of the week, and we shouldn't have any problem with that. A lot of the bills that we've got coming up are appropriations bills. So we're going to be talking a lot about money the next few days. Things have gone pretty well, I guess, as far as I'm concerned. It's amazing that we're already approaching the 2-month mark on the whole session. Time has gone fast, but I guess that happens when you're busy.
Very much so. And well, thank you for the update there, Senator Lem, and we'll be getting back to you with some questions and obtaining some more information from you. And also, Representative Mike Belts, if you could give us your update from your position, please. Mike.
Responsibility to take very seriously.
The past year has not only been difficult from a mixed crop year, pandemic, and politics. We have faced bigger issues in the past, and we will in the future. We have always risen to the challenges and prevailed. The growing season ended on a positive note in that we got the reset we needed for a better 2022. Prices as well have rebounded. There is a positive in regards to the pandemic as well. Cases are down and people are getting vaccinated. On a political front, things are still up in the air nationally. As a state, we are much calmer and focused. We always have a choice on how we view things. We can react in fear, or faith. Things are never as bad as we perceive them to be. We can let things divide us, but in the end, we are stronger together. Lasting solutions are always best reached when working as one towards a common goal. I have faith in who we are and what we stand for, because that's why we live here and have been successful in the past, present, and future. I don't live my life in fear, but in faith. I won't govern any differently. Just a side note, we will be doing another forum February 27th, 1 p.m. at Mayville State, room 118 in the Education Building, in person and virtually. Also March 1st in Hunter and March 6th in Thompson. Still working on the details for those. I guess the most significant thing that's passed out of the House budget-wise is the bonding bill 1431. With historically low interest rates, most of those projects are for the Fargo diversion, flood protection for Minot, and as well as $70 million in there for transportation, mostly bridges, and then $50 million for the Ag Products Development Center, which is a project that will combine the Ag Products Development Center, the NCI, and the Trade Office, I believe, will also be incorporated in that area. It's a huge deal for the state of North Dakota.
Thank you there, Representative Belts, and Representative Haggard, if you could also give us an update this afternoon.
Certainly. I wanted to start off by walking you through kind of what we've done so far in my committees. We'll start in industry, business, and labor. We had about 55 hearings on the bills. Out of those, 23 had failed on the House floor, had been withdrawn, and that means 22 passed or were introduced. We still do have a couple that are awaiting action on the floor. A couple of bills that I'd want to touch on is House Bill 1040. Deals with workforce safety and insurance and appeal extension. Basically, what this bill would do is extends the time available for employees to file a claim. There were some issues getting timely returns with the mail system and during the pandemic and that, so it was highlighted, that need was highlighted, and we passed that out of committee, and that one has passed on the House floor. House Bill 1147 is currently, well, it had just been reported back out of appropriations. 1147, it would increase the fertility benefit for couples from $20,000 to $50,000. It did pass our committee, and as I said, was referred to appropriations. And we've got a pretty steep hill to climb to get that one to pass the House because of it's coming out of appropriations with a do not pass recommendation at 17-3. House Bill 1152. We had quite a bit of discussion around that one. That one is more affectionately known as the cigar bar bill out at the Capitol. And that would allow for cigar bars to be established within the state. That one has moved across the hall over to the Senate side, and just by the narrowest of margins. House Bill 1386. That bill prohibits the government to put limitations on hours of service on the businesses and capacity limitations on them. There are 3 exceptions in that bill, and they are they can be limited if the hours or capacities have expressly been set by state or federal law or regulation, and if they are expressly specified hours of operation, or state law authorizes a state agency to limit the hours of operation and capacity of the business. That actually came out of the committee with a do not pass and was passed on the House floor. The last one I'll talk about coming out of IBL was House Bill 1442 that amends language on on late fees, rents payable, and basically cleans the language up within the measure. But what it also does is it sets a cap on late fees at a 10% rate, and that will provide a uniform language that both the renters and landlords can work with and follow. One of the nice things about it, the apartment association, apartment owners association actually came out in favor of that legislation. Moving over to transportation, we had 30 hearings on the bills there. 11 of those bills failed on the House floor or were withdrawn. That leaves us 19 that were passed. And actually, we've got a couple that are waiting votes on the floor also. Touch on a couple bills there. House Bill 1098, that relates to the reporting of crashes and obtaining crash reports and data. The bill would allow or align the language in current century code to that of Vision Zero. And a lot of what it was cleanup language around crashes and utilizing the word crash instead of an accident, because a crash has factors that can be defined, and an accident is actually an accident. It also creates a system to direct entities that are seeking aggregated crash report data, directs them to the North Dakota Department of Transportation website. Those entities would be like Carfax. And you can get a crash report if you were involved in a crash also there. House Bill 1315, that would have increased the speed limit to 80 miles an hour and provide a minimum speed on the interstate system. That did pass 8-6 out of committee and failed on the House floor. House Bill 1257 was a bill to allow those over 18 not to wear a safety belt if they so choose. And it actually came out of the Transportation Committee with a 8-6 do pass vote. But thankfully, it did fail on the House floor. So one of the reasons I think that it came out of committee as a do pass was there was a question around how much highway funding, federal highway funding, we would lose if we enacted this. And the response was, it's terrible to say, minimal, $250,000 was the stated loss. And in between the hearing and the floor, we got the correct information, and it was much higher, around $5 million the state would lose out on. So that one did fail on the floor. And then the last one I'll touch on is House Bill 1329. Actually, 1329 is a bill I sponsored. Excuse me. So 1329 men's language in the state seed department part of the code to match the Federal Seed Act, and it combines a couple areas of that code. Basically, the resident and non-resident seed licensing would be combined, so it make the language a little bit more clear, and also allows for the Seed Commission to take and set penalties for late fees, and takes that part out of the code. One bill I'd like to touch on too that I've worked on quite a bit, Mike's helped out too, and that's House Bill 1475, which sets up a value-added ag innovation fund. It's changed quite a bit from where we started. The intent was to build a fund up to $150 million to be utilized for value-added agriculture within the state of North Dakota, and combine a loan and a grant type fee or grant type situation to that process, and have the Ag Products Utilization Commission take and run that program. It got to appropriations, and it has changed and has been changed to be an interest buy down type of mechanism right now, but that's something we'll have to work on the Senate side to take in and get back into shape.
Very good. Thank you, Representative Haggart and Representative Belts and Senator Lem for your opening comments to get us up to speed, so to speak, and we'll have some questions to begin. And I also want to recognize that the schedule of Senator Lem today, I believe he needs to depart us right around 2 p.m. So we may ask a couple of additional questions for Senator Lem earlier, and then also come back to Representatives Belts and Haggart here this afternoon as the North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum with yourliveevent.com. We thank you for watching and listening this afternoon. With this being said, Senator Lem, if I can ask you to join us again here, and I want to ask you about the Senate Bill 2208. I believe that's regarding drainage water, which was turned into a study. Can you comment on and answer on that, please?
Yes. 2208 came to us originally as a bill that was going to really shake things up as far as century code was concerned, concerning all the drainage laws. And early on, we decided that it was way too big of an issue to try to solve it during these 80 days of legislative session. And so we have turned it into a study. That passed the Senate here the other day. We did what we call a hog house. We stripped all the original language out of the bill and reinserted the language for a study. So it'll be studied over the next 2 years during the interim. And there's been a lot of people involved on the Senate side, and there's a bunch of them in the House side as well. Been consulting back and forth and consulting with the legal people in the state and State Water Commission and some of those people. And I think it appears like we've got a pretty good language concerning the study. We'll see if the House decides they want to change some of it or not. But what it's going to do is there's basically 3 sections of century code that deal with drainage in some way or another. And the original portion was drafted, I think, back in 1895 or something like that. And then the newer portion was 1980, 81, something like that. So the idea is to try to combine those 2 sections, take all the good language out of both sections and combine it so there's one place to go to look for what the rules are. And there's issues. Anytime you talk about water in this state, you're going to have 100 different opinions on it. Here in the East, we deal with too much water, and you get very far west, and they don't have near enough. So it's a complex issue, and I think it's going to be a big job for the next 2 years to get everything lined up. And it's probably not. I know it's not going to be perfect. And, there's probably going to have to come back and do some tweaking on it, fixing on things. But hopefully, we can end up with at the end of the day. Hopefully, we can end up with a good set of rules in the century code that we can operate with.
I was going to ask you with what you've said and with how you've responded to give us the information. I'm asking this as the general question for District 20 as it turns into the study, where it is right now and what you've needed to do to get it to the study. Do you feel that this is headed in the right direction for District 20?
Well, it was a lot of echoing there. I'm not sure exactly what you said.
My apologies there is, I think we have one muted now, so hopefully you can hear me better. I was asking about with how this is headed, the SB 2208 is headed into the study, where it is currently and where it is headed to. Do you feel that this is good for District 20? Because as you said, there are always numerous comments or opinions anytime you bring up something with water.
Well, that's my hope that it's. I guess I feel like it's at this point it's headed in a good direction. Like I say, whenever we finish it, then it'll go to the House, and I think from what I understand, those guys are kind of on board with what we're doing in the Senate. So we'll see what happens, and then we'll work out the kinks after the House has acted on it. There's I lost my train of thought now what I was going to say, but it's I guess I'm feeling comfortable with it at this point.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the follow-up with that. And if I can also, while I have you, Senator Lem, and then I'll do some segueing to come back with our representatives, Belts and Haggard as well. If I can, Senator Lem, also ask you about Senate Bill 2140, the education bill dealing with tuition reimbursement for dentists, veterinarians, optometrists. I believe currently North Dakota does not have any schools in state for dentists or veterinarians or optometrists. So the bill would help provide incentive for North Dakotans to pursue these careers through this tuition reimbursement. Please respond to that, and I hope I'm accurate with what I've said there.
Well, yes, you're correct. North Dakota does not have that infrastructure for those, veterinarians, optometrists, and dentists. Since probably sometime in the mid 1980s, I think the program was originally set up back in the 70s, and then since the early to mid 80s, there was a provision that any students in any of those areas, if they did not come back to the state within 3 years, that portion of the tuition they would not have to pay that back. And what that is it's a tuition buy down. It basically establishes a reciprocity, if you will, between it's Kansas State, Iowa State, University of Minnesota, and then there's a Western Interstate Commission for Higher Education. I think Colorado State is another one that has a veterinary program. And I think optometry, they might go down to Arizona, I think, if I remember right. Anyway, the program is to have reciprocity as far as tuition is concerned. And what happened at the end of the 2019 session, they removed the provision to forgive the tuition payments after 3 years, so that the way the law currently stands, if students in any of those areas, if they did not come back to North Dakota to practice within 36 months of graduation, they would have to pay back the tuition portion that they received from North Dakota. And I'm looking for my notes here. It can go from it can be as much as they would have to take out a loan to pay back the tuition, because it would be due at that point, and it can be up to they could be close to 150, an increase of up to $150,000, so that all in one chunk. So with a average salary for veterinarians, that's the one I'm most familiar with in North Dakota. Average salary of a veterinarian with 3 to 5 years experience is about $75,000. So if you've got a loan that's say $250,000, it's going to be tough to pay that back with that kind of a salary. So what we passed it in the Senate. What we're trying to do is just reinstate that tuition forgiveness. Oftentimes there aren't positions available for those people within 36 months. I think within 5 years, the return rate is almost 50% for all three of those professions within 5 years. So we are getting the people to come back. It just sometimes takes longer than 3 years. I think.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Senator Lem. And I want to. It was brought up earlier by Representative Belts of the House Bill 1431, and it's started in the House, currently working its way over to the Senate, and total package $798.5 million. There's a lot in this bonding bill, and some of the specific parts impact the ag community. And all of that. And before I sit and give all of my notes that I have with that, Representative Belts, could you talk about this House Bill 1431 and what's there and the impacts and how you're working your way through this? And as I mentioned, it's on its way over to the Senate side.
Sure. 1431, like I said, was passed out of the House. With the historically low interest rates, it's a good time to bond. Historically, North Dakota has not done a lot of bonding, so we have very little debt in that area. The payments will be made by our earnings off the legacy fund, so that part is already covered. It's a 20-year payback. Just on the Red River Diversion project, it's 400 and some million. By doing it this way, we saved $20 million in the long run on that project by bonding for it now. So that certainly helps. As I mentioned, the $70 million for bridge and road infrastructure projects. Mouse River flood control is done. Also, there's Southwest Water is included in that project, and the ramifications for the ag community with the Ag Products Development Center. So, yeah, current numbers are something over 600 million, 680, something like that. So that's what's actually in the bill at this time.
And I believe the 50 million or that amount is what I had discovered here to North Dakota State University appropriated for the Ag Products Development Center, including the Northern Crops Institute project. Any additional, whether it's Representative Belts or Haggard, to add to that other than just that number as far as for information here for District 20 and for others?
Well, to add a little bit to it, Representative Belts had talked about the Fargo diversion there. Not only does it get that off the books, and it really compresses the time schedule that would be completed in. So it's an advantage there for that area of our state. And as we all know, that water comes through District 20. The other thing with other projects he'd mentioned too, it gets those projects up to the levels that were comparable to other state-funded aid events. So like out in western North Dakota, the water projects would get up to 60% funding and that sort of thing. So it's kind of getting everything up to the same level, so to speak, and being able to have something left over for when we get another unexpected event.
Thank you. And North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum this afternoon. Senator Lem, I want to come back to you, and I suspect that this conversation will probably come back and include Representatives Belts and Haggard as well. And this is a question that comes related to Mayville State University and the request for $1.6 million for their natural gas conversion. I believe currently they're using a coal and a fuel oil system, and if they were to convert to the natural gas that's coming into the area here of District 20, Senator Lem, what's the response or update can you give to us this afternoon related to that, I believe it's in the university system budget, the appropriations request from Mayville State University for the 1.6 million for that natural gas conversion.
Well, yeah, thank you. I haven't seen any specifics about that. I've talked to a couple of the senior appropriations guys on the appropriations committee, and they both indicated that Mayville State's presentation was very good. They were impressed with what they had to say. I asked them about the natural gas thing, and they said it really seems to make sense. And in their words, they thought Mayville State was in good shape, and they're looking favorably towards Mayville State.
Representative Belts, I see you have the microphone and is smiling at me, so I'm going to go right to you. So I'll just ask you to follow up and to comment further.
Sure. At this point in the game, it's early for appropriations. They're being cautious on both sides of the aisle since we'll get a new revenue forecast the 11th of March, so we'll have something better to base things on. Currently, there's 1.5 and 1.5 salary increase on the House side. The Senate is 2 and 2. If it doesn't come forward as a capital project, there is potential that it might fit in as far as deferred maintenance. There's another program or category that the Mayville State project could go under. And yeah, as far as economic development, that natural gas pipeline getting into the county and into the area is huge for District 20.
We have another question here this afternoon, and this is in regard to Senate Bill 2019, which provides funding for career and technical education academies. Senator Lem, where in the state would the next academy be located? And also with regard to the one-time funding allocation of $45 million, is that likely to remain at that level, or do you anticipate changes to that amount? That is our question that has come into us here this afternoon. Senator Lem.
Okay. Could you repeat that, please? I'm sorry. I was having a little tough time hearing that.
Absolutely, no problem. So it's kind of a two-part question comment here, if you will. So I'll read through the entire question as it has come up on our email. And that reminds me, and my apologies, I should have been saying this earlier as the moderator. If you do have questions, you can email those to nddistrict20legislativeforum@gmail.com. So Senator Lem, as I'm reading the question presented here, with regards to Senate Bill 2019, which provides funding for career and technical education academies, where in the state would the next academy be located? And the follow-up with that is also with regard to the one-time funding allocation of $45 million. Is that likely to remain at that level, or do you anticipate changes to that dollar amount?
Okay, whatever you did there worked really well, because I could really hear you good that time, just for your side of things there. As far as where an academy would be located, I think, if I remember right, this one came through our education committee, and we didn't hear any testimony of actually where another academy would be located. As far as the dollar amount, that's hard to say. I guess that enters into the appropriations side of things. And like Representative Belts said, that that they're trying to make all these pieces fit into the puzzle. It's hard to say where, if at this point in time, I would think that. Well, I just can't really say for sure where it'll be.
Okay, and did you also comment on the dollar amount? I'm sorry, I was looking at another question here. My apologies to you.
Okay, no, that 45 million, that's that part. Let's see, I think, let me just check here. I think that bill is coming up in, if I remember right, I'm just checking here. I think that bill's coming up this month, tomorrow.
Okay. All right, thank you. And for Representative Belts, there's many bills introduced that involve marijuana, everything from cultivating the crop to using the drug, including processing and distribution. What is the intent of legislature?
So there's two tracks on the marijuana side. The medical program has been up and running for a few years, and that's functioning well. There was a bill just recently that I carried that related to edible products being available for those patients, and in relation to the advisory board that oversees that program. So that program is working and functioning, and currently it is not costing the state money to administer that program. The funds collected are recovering the costs. On the recreational side, it's a situation of, the states around us, Canada's approved it, Montana approved it, South Dakota approved it, and then it's been called back on a technical correction from the courts. The thinking here is it going to happen by initiated measure and we're going to be stuck with what comes to us, or we're going to be proactive and try and get ahead of it, write the rules, and be restrictive on what comes forward instead of letting it come in who knows what form in initiated measure. So that's kind of the process. It is certainly a contentious issue. Personally, I don't see an upside to it other than the fact that there are worse alternatives if we don't do it ourselves. So there will still be much debate. It's on the calendar coming up, and we'll see where it goes.
Next question that has come in to us this afternoon is you are watching and listening with yourliveevent.com, the North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum, sponsored by the Hillsborough Business Association and the North Dakota District 20 Republicans. And next question for Representative Haggart, and I'm reading here this off of the email exactly how it comes, okay? So apparently Republican legislators can drive 82 miles per hour. Recently on I-29, my cruise was set on 79 miles per hour. I was inching past a Trail County deputy who was driving slower in the left lane when he emphatically motioned for me to slow down. I slowed down to 78 miles per hour and pulled in behind him and followed him all the way to Hillsborough, making sure I was at a safe following distance in the same lane as he was driving. Your reactions?
Well, I'd like to say that it's not just limited to Republicans; it's all members of the assembly. But we all have our choices on what speed we choose to drive. It's that question's interesting because we had testimony on the House floor with House Bill 1315 raising the speed limit up to 80 miles an hour, and the representative had stated that they consistently drive or set their cruise at 82 on the interstates and don't have a problem. Well, I can tell you, we heard that testimony last week, and on the way back home on Friday, there was a enhanced police presence heading east from Bismarck. So I would like to thank Representative Westland for that comment. But just to touch a little bit more on 1315, I was opposed to raising the speed limit because the way our interstates are designed, the interstate systems are designed, I-94 especially, is not in the best possible position to handle 80 miles an hour because of the vertical and horizontal curves that occur on I-94. I-29, that's a different story. It's most of it, we could handle that speed. And when we heard that bill in committee, the North Dakota Department of Transportation had stated that they used a 3-tier system when they looked at this, and they just kind of did a desk study on it and classified the areas of interstate that could handle it as green. Ones that needed to have a little bit more in-depth analysis as yellow, and ones that shouldn't be as red. So obviously the reds are around our major cities and going through them. to have that speed limit, especially Fargo, Grand Forks, Bismarck, Jamestown, Valley City. That's pretty high rate of speed, even by just adding that 5 miles an hour. So with that being said, the thing that I liked about the bill is it did add a minimum speed to the interstate of 40 miles an hour. And I think that's something that we need to keep at the top of our mind. There's an additional cost for putting that type of signage up there because you need better foundation on the posts and that type of thing. So it's not a quick fix of putting a sticker over a sign until the sign needs to be replaced. But it's something that I think we need to keep in the top of our minds and take into consideration as we move forward, because the rate of speed that we're traveling and the rate of gain on another vehicle that's on the interstate is quite quick. It doesn't really matter if you're looking out the window at some wildlife in the field and are getting distracted, changing the radio station or whatever happens, and you look up and all of a sudden it can be too late. So. But moving forward, I think that's something we'll have to take into consideration if we do ever raise the speed limit.
Representative Haggard, you're on the Transportation Committee. I'm going to begin with you, and I think this is a question that yourself and Representative Beltz and Senator Lem will probably all want to respond to and to answer. The question is that we've received here again on email, nddistrict20legislativeforum@gmail.com. The harvest for 2020 was quite smooth. Personally, I'll add to that. Thank you. We all appreciated that. The question continues, yet the township and county roads necessary are still in bad shape from the 2019 harvest. Will there be assistance in getting the roads to the necessary condition? Representative Haggard.
Well, that's a very good question. I would hope that there will be some help coming forward. There's been discussion about raising the gas tax to help start fill the buckets. Unfortunately, there isn't. Although there's some that reach the township level, it's not to the level that we need it at. I view our township roads as the foundation of our road network. Whether it's farmers getting their crop to market or my wife utilizing them to get to work in the morning. In our area, as in others, and I think about 2019, that was an awful tough harvest year. Thankfully, we did have a good harvest season this year, but in the middle of summer, we had 13 inches of rain right in our township, and we had somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 of damage to our township road system there, and we were not able to get those into shape like they need to be. I'm concerned that this spring season is gonna be harder on them, just because we're lacking gravel in some spots. So to get to the funding question, there is some in the bonding bill, but for the roads to be repaired and to be up to snuff for the spring season, we should have been doing that last fall.
Representative Beltz, would you like to also respond, please?
Sure. Yeah, there's different avenues being explored as far as this situation is concerned. The unfortunate thing for townships is they're always at the bottom of the food chain. The buckets get filled above us, and then if there's anything left over, we may get something. It's unfortunate, like Representative Haggard said, it's for ag production, that's the roads we start out on, and it's important to get crops to market. There is some talk of trying to do a more targeted approach to the west of here, where they have some more elevation changes. There was considerably more damage done on some of those township roads, so they may do a needs-based approach. You have to show the damage to get the rewards. And there is also talk of a bigger picture deal. You know, these $5,000 and $10,000 grants to the townships are great, but it doesn't go very far when you start buying gravel or fixing roads again. So there is a concerted effort to do more in this arena. We'll see where it goes.
Thank you, Representative Belts. Senator Lem, and hopefully you've been able to hear the responses from Representatives Haggart and Belts related to that question of assistance for the township and county roads to help in repair and bring them to necessary condition. Your comments, your response, please.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear much anything of what Jared said. I heard a little bit of Mike's response. There's a group of us ag guys in the Senate who we've been having little meetings amongst ourselves. We had some township officers in one day, met with them, and we're working with our majority leader. And as far as the bonding thing goes, trying to get some money shook loose for the township and county roads. There's work with North Dakota Highway Department concerning that as well. Mr. Panos, the head of the Highway Department, is very good at working and is excited about trying to work with the townships and counties. And I guess in his past positions, he's been very good at focusing money on where it needs to be, and matching funds or targeting things. So we've got some. So far we're encouraged by what we're hearing, and I think I heard Mike say something about $5,000 or $10,000, and for some of these townships, that was vetoed by the governor back, I think it was two sessions ago. It was a $10,000 per township, but it wasn't targeted to specific townships, because obviously there's some of those western townships with their oil, they don't need the help where some of these other townships do. And that's what I think what we're trying to do is we want to help everybody out as best we can, and maybe try to target it towards areas that need more attention than others. We don't want to leave anybody out, but we just don't want to hand over a $10,000 check to everybody and here, do what you will. I know $10,000 doesn't go very far when you're graveling the roads or having to reshape roads, that kind of thing. But we are trying to do what we can in that regard. And I'm hoping that we've maybe shook up the township officers a little bit, get them, because they've been pretty quiet on some of this stuff. And that's where I'd encourage anybody listening, if you talk to your township officers, encourage them to get involved. And, we know the problem is out here, but if you guys don't stand up and say something, it's kind of hard for us to get the rest of the legislature to help you out. Point, I have to go back to that 2019. I misspoke on that one. I had to look it up again, but we actually passed that in the Senate. It passed 47-0, the funding for the technical education and that thing. So that passed the Senate. So now it's over on the House side, and it'll be on the House Appropriations Committee going forward. So we'll see what they come up with over there.
Thank you, Senator Lem. I believe Representative Haggart was looking to get my attention to come back for some more follow-up related to the transportation in our township and county roads.
Yeah, I thank you for coming back to me. One of the things that we're all aware of is the prairie dog bill that had passed, and unfortunately the buckets haven't filled up the way that we have envisioned them. But I think we need to be careful too, as when we're visiting with our other legislators out in Bismarck. We can point to the bonding bill, talk about the investments that were made or are going to be made there for the infrastructure in the different areas of the state, and bring that back to what we need here in like in the District 20 team's case in District 20, and where we can really, ag is our base, but UPS, we all depend on our Amazon deliveries too at some point. So.
And with respect to time, as I look here, and I know that again that Senator Lem needs to depart us at 2 p.m. Here this afternoon. So I'm just bringing this in as a general, because I hear it from the general public, whether we understand it or don't understand it, but it certainly is a buzzword this session in the environment, social governance, the ESG. And what prompted me to this real quickly here before we get to the top of the hour is I know Senator Lem is listening in and hopefully can hear me fine. There's several bills in the House and Senate related to the energy industry, and we talked about the gas tax to help fill up some buckets. And earlier today when we first began, Senator Lem talked about meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30, and there's 25 bills, and it's a big week of appropriation bills with a lot of dollars. So with all of that being said, and legislature working extremely hard to understand these problems that the industry of energy is facing, and also you tie into this the new presidential administration, I believe it's House Bill 1118 is similar to that of the Senate bill. Representative Beltz, just real briefly, and then I want to get Senator Lem in here to get him up to the top of the hour. But Representative Beltz, could you respond to what we need to know related to energy?
Sure. Thanks for bringing that topic up. At the top of the order tomorrow in House, on the calendar, is House Bill 1452 relating to energy resources in the state. ESG relates to environmental, sustainable, and governance. So it's the whole arena is to try and make sure that we're developing all our energy resources that we have in this state in an environmentally respectful manner, sustainably to the extent we can. Carbon capture, as you know, has become a huge topic lately as far as ethanol, coal, and other different energy sources. So that whole arena, they are setting up a fund to do research in relation to that and along those lines. So yeah, it's certainly an important topic in this political environment with the administration we have. The rules we're seeing come down, Keystone getting shut down. We still have the DAPL thing hanging over our heads. They extended the deadline on that court case for another 2 months, so that could go away at any time, and that would be devastating to our economy as far as collections and revenue for our state. So that whole arena is getting a lot of attention in Bismarck this session.
Senator Lem, if I can come to you on this ESG and just ask you to comment, and then also with respect to your time and appreciation for your schedule of being with us this afternoon, as I know it's closing in towards the 2 p.m. Time frame. If you would respond to this energy ESG, and then I'm going to do a follow-up with you before I'll have you depart us here this afternoon. So please respond to the energy aspect.
Okay. Yeah, I was having a hard time hearing what Mike said, but I'll just add my 2 cents where there's a lot of issues going on with energy, and it's hard to know what's going to come out of Washington. They've indicated they'd like to shut down pipelines, but that, if they would try to do something like that, that would be devastating for North Dakota. And as we've seen in this past week with the weather down in Texas and how that even affects us up here in North Dakota concerning electricity, it's vitally important. We have all of the above as far as energy is concerned. I hear rumblings of that Coal Creek station, that they're working on getting new owners for that thing and keeping that thing running. And I think that we have to have that. The whole country needs that. And it's one of the best plants in the country. It's getting old, but it's been updated, and I think it operates as about as efficiently as you can get. So I guess we need all the above when it comes to energy in this country, this state and this country.
Senator Lem, as I'm going to close out to here in the next 3-4 minutes or so with you to give you the time to comment further on something else that you want to make sure the North Dakota District 20 area hears from you as you join us today in this legislative forum with YourLiveEvent.com, sponsored by the North Dakota District 20 Republicans and the Hillsborough Business Association. As I alluded to earlier, you said tomorrow morning, 8:30, you begin the week, and there's a lot of things on the table and a lot of dollars. So I've set you up. So now I'm gonna, and I say that in a positive way. Bad choice of my terms. My apologies to you for using the setup, but it truly is a broadcaster setting you up to segue into for you to elaborate more on. If you can look into your crystal ball here for District 20 and tell us what you're going to see happening here this week.
Okay. Yeah, I think, like I say, said before, there's quite a few appropriations bills coming up. Now I've lost the connection on my iPad, so I can't actually look those things up. But I think at least, if I remember right, there was at least half of those bills that we're going to be seeing tomorrow are for appropriations. And I wish I could pull that up so I could tell you what all areas we're going to be looking at. But I guess I'm drawing a blank on that part of it. But it's a lot to wrap your head around. So I think I heard earlier you were talking about the speed limit, and when we go back to Bismarck tonight, my wife will be driving, and I'll be looking on the computer trying to study some of this stuff so I can have a little better handle when we get in on it tomorrow. And my wife doesn't drive 80. She does drive by our watch a lot of the times, but she keeps it under 80 anyway.
All right. Well, that's all good news. That you probably weren't able to hear us joining in some chuckle smiles there when you're talking about your wife doing the driving and based on the time there. But Senator Lem, anything at all else? And I know you're on a time restraint here, but anything else just before I let you go here in the next 60 seconds? And we certainly do appreciate you working with us to connect via Zoom virtually for you to join our meeting this afternoon, and for your time. I know it's not always been perfect for you to be able to hear everything that we've said, but we do appreciate you providing your insight as our senator here from District 20. So with the final 60 seconds before you got to go, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, thank you for doing this, Jim and Sarah and everybody else had a part in it. Really appreciate the chance to talk to everybody, and want to thank everybody for their support, and send emails if you got a question or concern or comment. Just, don't be afraid to send an email or drop a text or whatever, because we need to hear from people about some of this stuff. We kind of have our own ideas, but we need to hear from people to see what people are thinking. It helps shape how we vote on things. And so these opportunities like this to talk with people are very good. They're very important. And thanks again for doing this.
Hey, Randy, and I just want to do a follow-up. I believe, and I'm glad you brought up about you want to hear from District 20 people and community members and citizens of District 20. I believe also what's very helpful to you, Senator Lem, and to the representatives Belts and Haggard, is that when people do email, that they include something in the subject matter about District 20, because that kind of helps streamline it and bring attention to District 20, does it not?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It really helps. You know, we get bombarded with emails, and it really does help to know that you're from District 20. You know, some part of District 20, and it helps if you can add your own thoughts on things too. If you would put in the subject line, you know, vote yes on a certain bill, that helps, and we can target what we're looking at. And we get a lot of form emails where somebody will just add their name on the bottom, and that's okay, but it helps to actually know, after you've seen about 10 or 20 of those form emails, you don't even read them anymore, because they all say the same thing. It helps if you can add some of your own personal thoughts on the issue.
Thank you, Senator Lem. And again, to you, I will say a farewell and safe travels back into Bismarck, and best wishes as you work through the week and through the remainder of the session. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, and enjoy this day. It's a beautiful day outside, and the sun is shining, and after the last week, it's very much appreciated.
It certainly is. So thank you, Senator Randy Lem, joining us today in our District 20 Legislative Forum here live today with YourLiveEvent.com. Representative Haggart, I have not forgotten to come back to you related to the buzzword of ESG. So, and I know that we've got a number of questions that have stacked up, but that's good. That's why we're here today, to get the questions, to get the information. It's why you're representing District 20, because you want to hear and you want to be able to go serve for District 20. So Representative Haggart, enough from me. Let's get your words, please, related to the buzzword of ESG.
Well, ESG, I think, is extremely important. The environmental social governance, as far as our energy needs, it's an all of the above approach, which has been stated before. We need to make sure that we're doing as much as we can with what we have, and looking at options to extend the life of our coal industry, extend the life of our oil industry, and work in a partnership type aspect with the renewable side of things. You know, I think what we've seen with the power grid, what's gone on this past week, 10 days, really kind of brings that point home, that we need to focus on that critical piece of infrastructure. And it's not one or another. It's not wind or coal. It's a combination. And we still need to have coal, I believe, in as a resource, not only for North Dakota, but nationally. And it might not be utilized, as much as it has been, but the cheapest place for coal to be stored is in the ground, and that's where it's gonna stay. And if we get mandated not to utilize it, we need to be proactive to figure out how to maintain the base load needs of the nation in times of inverse temperatures like we had. I got a picture from a friend in Arkansas today. He's usually golfing right now. I had a pop can down, and you could only see the top of the pop can for all the snow that they have, and they are not set up for that. You've all seen pictures of what's happening in Houston and points where we're set up for that. We understand that, but it drives home the importance of all sources of energy in my mind.
And unknowing what is happening in Washington, D.C. related to energy. It was a comment made to me this past week, and I only bring this up for conversation purposes with you two representatives, Belts and Haggart, that it cannot be done with the stroke of a pen. This takes years and decades and longer to do whatever it is that needs to be or wants to be done. Is that accurate just for conversational purposes?
I'd say it's very accurate. You know, you just cannot have it done. The stroke of a pen or the snap of your fingers is, it's not a revolutionary process. It's an evolutionary process. And, I agree with your statement.
Go ahead, Representative Belts.
Yeah, I can concur. I mean, you can't just flip a switch and change your system overnight. These things take time. Will we get there eventually? Time will tell. But as of this point in time, like has been stated before, baseload capacity is critical.
Well, we are moving forward as we're into our second hour here, and our plans are going to approximately 2:30 this afternoon. We do appreciate the questions that have come in to ND District 20 Legislative Forum at gmail.com. North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum broadcast with yourliveevent.com, powered by Halston Telephone Company, R&J Broadcasting Incorporated. Today's program is sponsored by Hillsborough Business Association and North Dakota District 20 Republicans. I almost feel so much better because I was looking at my clock and knowing that there's that 10-second window that we always have to comply with our certain IDs. It's just ingrained in my mind, so my apologies to you two guys. So with a smile that I get to see it from you, Representative Belts, the question that comes in, and I think this at least warrants to begin with you because of COVID and the executive powers and orders that have been questioned, and for you to comment first, and Representative Haggart can as well if he would like. The question statement that comes in here on the email today is, I have been seeing interest in bills dealing with nullification this session. What are your thoughts on House Bill 1282, House Bill 1164, and House Bill 1272 respectively? Representative Belts?
Sure. Thanks for the question. 1164 deals with executive orders from the president. It passed the House 7913. 1272 was firearms and federal regulations. They were going to pass 6923. Nullification of federal laws as per the Constitution by concurrent resolution passed 5143. In my mind, all of this stems from the fact that a long time ago, this didn't happen overnight. Congress has failed to do their job as it relates to governing. So it's gotten to where the president, by executive order, conducts policy instead of it being done by Congress. It's a far smaller issue in North Dakota. There again, people were upset during the pandemic that some of the stuff had to happen by executive order. They weren't happy. It's understandable. But just know that the legislators and leadership were engaged with the governor, talking constantly back and forth, so it wasn't like it was all one-sided. The governor pushed everything through on his own. There was consultation with the legislative branch, leadership on both sides of the aisle from both parties, so that's kind of where it's at. There is legislation coming forward to dial back some of the executive branch's powers as it relates to executive orders. There's several bills out there. Well, not all of them have been acted on, but there is legislation moving forward.
And I think that talk is related to with the governor's ability and power during any emergency time, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Representative Hager?
Yeah, and I have to agree with Mike and in what he said there. The legislature, we meet every other year. In between, we have our leadership team together, legislative management, and they work in conjunction with the governor. We have the luxury, I think, as legislators right now in session, being able to look back and kind of Monday morning quarterback what happened during the pandemic. I think the responses were fair. But to get back to the bill numbers there, I can talk a little bit more about 1272 firearms manufacturing within the state of North Dakota. That went through the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee. Did get a due pass and has passed the House, as Mike had talked about earlier. One of the things that, although it's gone through the House, now it's across the hallway, one of the things we need to be, I don't know if I want to say concerned about, but one of the things I want to let District 20 residents know is, even if it does, pass the state, there were similar laws, Montana comes to mind, that were passed, and were challenged in the 9th District Court now, and were found to be unconstitutional there. There were some individuals that had gotten stopped by and had weapons on them, but even though they were in Montana and had Montana firearms, they that's what brought the court case about. Now we're in the 8th, so it could be looked upon differently, but just want to make certain that the residents of District 20 know that there's a strong possibility of litigation if this does get passed.
Another question that has come into us this afternoon, it's subject matter, House Bill 1446, legacy funds to lower residential property tax. Question, is there any chance that this bill comes back in an amended form? And they're responding to that on this email question. For instance, if the bill's language was not set at 1/3 but would have been at 1/4 or of something similar, would it have a chance to pass? Representative Hager?
Yeah, that was 1446.
Right.
Yeah. Looking at it, I don't think that it would. When it did get defeated, it got defeated 24 yeas to 69 no votes. It's a pretty steep road to climb, even with amended language. I think the talk in the House to this bill is basically around the legacy fund and the earnings. Are we looking to invest that into one-time things like a property tax reduction? Are you looking to have a legacy project? And I think something that an investment that would continue to pay dividends back to the legacy fund earnings and the state of North Dakota is where the Assembly is at, in my estimation.
So,
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is property tax really is a local issue instead of a state issue. I know the state has gotten involved with the issue in past. They did some mill levy buy downs in the past that got rescinded when the revenue ran short. We have taken over county social services, which is huge. That was the biggest budget in Trail County, and as was stated, legacy funds. The feeling is they should be for legacy projects, not for normal operating expenses of the government. So that's kind of the viewpoint that's taken.
The two words of state involvement really segue into this question that has just popped up here. And I'll just stay with you, Representative Belts. It reads, major medical insurance has been essentially taken over by the federal government. Medicare has been a federal government issue for a longer time. State government regulates insurance. What role is the legislature attempting to play in health insurance?
That's a really good question, an important question. The ACA had its upsides and downsides. There was spirited debate on the floor this last week as far as pieces of that being retained, as far as pre-existing conditions and the like. So it is an important topic. Premiums are always a concern. I guess one of the things that, just not to get sidetracked, but we're really looking at the insurance side of it rather than the cost of it. The basic issue is that services are getting more expensive all the time, and we just keep talking about how do we handle it with insurance instead of addressing the base problem, which is the cost of the coverage. So, yeah, insurance is always a topic of conversation. Yeah, we have heard discussions about it, and we've still got, I think, more bills that will deal with it. So we'll see where it goes.
With that spirited, there on the floor, Representative Haggard, does it lead in a direction?
Well, the debate is certainly merited. One of the examples that we heard on the floor when we were discussing this was a plan, I believe, that was cost about $1,200 for a family of four that was grandfathered in. They ran out of that time period, and that same plan, Mike, am I remembering right? Was it like 2,200?
22, 27, somewhere in there.
27.
Yep.
I think it was 27. Yeah. So it dramatically increased. As far as the bill that was being debated, we actually heard that in our committee, and one of our committee members had brought it forward. And what they had done was they had looked at all of the things that they felt ACA that North Dakotans liked or needed in a plan. So knowing that the Supreme Court is in a different place than when ACA was first implemented, what we have to be careful of, or the concern of his was that if ACA was repealed, you come back to the state function on the insurance side. How do we want to approach it? And that's generally what the question was, is how do we want to approach it before, say it happens in July and we don't meet for another year and a half. How is the state going to operate? We can do a couple different things. We could make the decision, which was what he proposed to do with his bill, or just let it fall back into a special session. I think either way, you'd probably end up in a special session just because of the ramifications of the dollar amounts that would be there. This was one of the votes that Mike and I did split on, if I remember right. I was in favor of it because I wanted to have a baseline to understand where we were going to start from, because it's extremely important in my mind to understand that. And if it was something that was, and the reason why I was in favor of it, because it was a temporary type solution. Now, we don't want temporary to become permanent, but it gave us, I thought it would have given us some time to really find the best alternative instead of scrambled to be at a zero base, and I don't know that. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future on the insurance side of things, but it's definitely a topic that's discussed at length in the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee. So I've learned more about insurance in the past 32 days working there than I have in the previous 30 years of my work experience.
Thank you, Representative Haggard. Representative Belts, if I can ask you, as Representative Haggard said, that the two of you, differed on that. He explained why he was in favor of. Can I ask you why you were on the opposite side?
Yeah, I guess it just came down to a difference of opinion on what we actually were trying to accomplish there in the big picture. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of where it was.
Yeah, no, I just felt it was appropriate to ask you so that you could explain to the district as to why. And thank you for that. All right, a question on email, and then I promise, because it would be not right if I did not do this and talk about budget at some point. But we're going to save the budget for the last. Okay, so here's the final question that we're going to take from our email here this afternoon as visiting with Representative Belts and Representative Haggart, District 20 delegation. From the email, and it reads, school districts are under exceptional pressure with COVID-19, virtual classroom, there's many ways that they've been educating our children and how they've been doing that. So what debate is occurring with that?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have the senator online on the education committee because that would have fit in nicely. There is quite a bit of debate around the different options as far as in-person, distance learning, the combination. There really hasn't been, to my knowledge, on the House side, any firm commitments one way or the other. And I don't know that we've seen anything coming from the Senate side as being a hard and fast rule. And I hope I'm getting the essence of the question right on that. And it's had a great impact on all of us. The COVID-19, the technology that we've invested in just as a state legislature and the technology we have in this room now to be able to have this type of a forum, we probably wouldn't have thought of it 18 months ago.
May not have thought of it 12 months ago. Just my own personal comment there, if I can be allowed to as the moderator. I would like to suggest to the individual that did send in this question and piggybacking off of what Representative Haggart had mentioned about with Senator Lem and the education side, I please encourage you on this question or any others also again in District 20 to please email to Senator Lem, Representative Belts, Representative Haggart, your questions, your thoughts, your input. They do want to, again, hear from you. They've said that repeatedly here this afternoon. And again, in that subject line, please put something of District 20 because then it gets some super attention, not only from your local delegation, but also probably from those elsewhere throughout the state as well that they may need to assist them to work for you. So, all right, let's get to the budget here. Representative Belts, big picture, budget consideration.
Sure. As we all know, there's certainly a number of challenges we've faced in the last couple of years. The good news is we're only 3% under the projection for the current biennium. With all that's gone on, that's a pretty stellar position to be in. We all know the impact the oil crash had on states' revenue. That was huge when the combination of factors fell into play that caused that to come about. The legislature is taking a very conservative approach to the upcoming budget. Like I said, we'll have another forecast coming up the 11th of March, which will be the final one that they'll base what their funding will be this session. Like I said, we've mentioned the salary package. That'll get negotiated in conference committee at the end of the session, what the final numbers will be. The DAPL thing is huge. How that goes will determine what happens with the budget. Like I say, pretty conservative, and at this point, it's kind of preliminary. They're doing what they have to get stuff moved from one side to the other, but more will be set in place after we find out what the projection is. It could go, hopefully it goes up, but you just never know. We'll see what it brings.
Representative Haggart?
I concur. No, it is a little bit of a preliminary conversation. We've had a couple of forecasts that we've looked at. I'm looking forward to the one coming up here in March. I think it's gonna probably give us a little bit better understanding of where we're at as far as what the available dollars to be invested are, and also where these investments will do the best for the state and our constituents of District 20.
So, in somewhat of closing here, with the constituents of District 20 in mind, as you work for them, with all of these bills that are there, and it's a tremendous, huge process. We all know that. Sometimes we don't understand it. Sometimes we don't like it or want to understand it. But as a District 20 constituent is watching and listening this afternoon, Representative Haggard, if you were to look into in somewhat of our closing comments here, I'll give you another chance for some additional thoughts right before we go. But with this, if you're to look into your crystal ball here and to say, okay, this is what we want to get done for District 20 and for the betterment, how do you look into that crystal ball? What do you see?
Well, one of the things that's top of mind for me is, the roads and bridges here. The infrastructure piece is critical throughout the state, and I think no more so than District 20. We've got a couple bridges that are in need of repair. And we might have to prioritize between them, but at the same token, it's just extremely important, the infrastructure piece for us. There's our education system, that's always critical. I'd hope that the CTE programs that we talked about earlier, we'd be looking pretty hard at being able to get one here. Because I think it's important, from a workplace standpoint. Right here where we're at today in Hillsboro is a pretty bright spot for District 20, and seeing the manufacturing and the different businesses that are here. And to go along with that, the natural gas side of things is critically important to our continued success.
Representative Belts, same view, crystal ball here for you.
Yeah, I guess I would concur. We ran on looking out for education and agriculture, and those will be top of mind for both of us and your whole team from District 20. One thing that should be mentioned is the nursing homes have felt a tremendous impact from the pandemic and all the appropriations side of that. They are hurting for cash. There has been bills that have come through that are dealing with that as best we can. The Medicaid expansion is huge for North Dakota to keep that program strong. The return on investment there is every $10 we spend, we get $90 in federal funds that match that. So we were fortunate enough to be smart enough to, on the front end, get involved in that process, set us up in good stead. We just need to do a little more expansion, and we'll continue to be good as far as that goes.
Final closing comments, about 60 seconds for each of you. And with that, again, my thanks to both Representative Mike Belts and Representative Jared Haggard. Representative Belts, some closing comments for you that you'd like to leave us with this afternoon, please.
Yeah, certainly. I'd thank the Hillsboro Business Association, the District 20 Republicans. Keep an eye on what's going on. The process has never been more open than it is right now. You can watch committee meetings, floor sessions, subcommittee meetings. It's all available online. legis.nd.gov. The video links are there. It's cataloged. You can go back and look at testimony. When you see a vote that comes out and it piques your interest on why it went that way, go back to the committee hearing and you can listen to what your legislators got the input and what they base their decisions on. And you may agree in the end or you may disagree, but at least you'll know how the process came about or how we reached a decision in the process. So with that, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Representative Mike Belts. Representative Haggard?
I, too, would like to thank the Hillsboro Business Association and District 20 Republicans and the opportunity for giving us the opportunity to touch base with our constituents. Although it's not the way we'd all like it to be, it'll do for now. Representative Belts is 100% right with this has been the most transparent process that we've had, and the data's out there to for you to access at any time. Our emails are open for you. You can give us a call. We appreciate your feedback and input into the issues. One of the constituents I did have reach out to me on House Bill 1272 around the firearms thing to try and improve it a little bit. So that was great. It was awesome to get that feedback because they had expertise that I didn't. One thing I do want to mention that did come although we skirt around it in District 20, the Air Force Base, Grand Forks Air Force Base, up by myself, we were one of only 2 states in the United States that didn't offer military spouse unemployment. So when somebody had a permanent change of station, their spouse, if they left, North Dakota wouldn't reimburse them for unemployment. So it's passed through the House and going to the Senate. Basically costs 75 cents per employee per month for all of the state employers, because it really doesn't work. That program doesn't work without everybody participating. So, and on average, that's 17 weeks, but of unemployment payments, but in reality, much shorter when they do get employment. But once again, really appreciate the opportunity to come down to Hillsborough today and step in front of a camera and have a bit of a conversation.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Representative Jared Haggart and Representative Mike Belts from District 20. Thanks to all involved behind the scenes, and thanks to Whitney Pittman, the producer and technical director, and Jacob Berkemeyer as a director here on site this afternoon. We appreciate your efforts and work, and again to many others behind the scenes. Thank you so much. Thanks to the Hillsborough Business Association and to the North Dakota District 20 Republicans for the sponsorship today to make this broadcast possible on the North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum that you've been watching live here with YourLiveEvent.com, powered by Halstead Telephone Company, R&J Broadcasting Incorporated. For this afternoon from the North Dakota District 20 Legislative Forum, I'm your moderator, Jim Berkemeyer, saying so long, everyone.